Keir Starmer has just received a painful blow from the very trade unions he once proudly had the support of. But that's not all. Elon Musk is preparing to drop a £100 million bombshell on Starmer's Labour Party by publicly backing Nigel Farage. Before you follow this shocking development, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the latest political shocks from British politics. The Labour Party and the major trade unions in the UK are currently heading into a tense showdown, which has come as a surprise to many. Union leaders have openly expressed their outrage, publicly criticising and strongly condemning the cause of the conflict. One of the biggest issues is the plan to raise taxes by up to £40 billion, something union leaders view as a heavy blow to workers already struggling with tough living conditions. However, the issue goes beyond just the financial figure. The unions feel that the Labour Party under Starmer's leadership has betrayed the values the party once stood for. A key figure in the union movement has openly condemned the breaking of tax promises during the election campaign, which has shattered trust in the current government. This is a strong criticism from those whom the Labour Party once considered allies. The unions are not just expressing dissatisfaction, they are also taking decisive action. A major lawsuit has been filed against the government under Starmer's leadership. While the details of the case have not been made public, it is clear that this is not a minor disagreement. This legal battle could seriously harm the Labour Party, especially financially. Union contributions are a significant source of funding for the party. If the lawsuit does not go in Starmer's favour, Labour could struggle to raise funds. The unions are sending a strong message. Don't forget those who have supported you, or there will be a price to pay. Starmer has received no praise for how he has handled the situation. Although Starmer has tried to calm things down, his response has been completely ineffective. Union leaders feel his words lack conviction, and it is concrete action that truly matters. One union leader did not hesitate to criticise him bluntly. The Labour Party's programme, with its policies limiting growth, means they are always reliant on taxpayers. This is a harsh assessment from someone who was once considered an ally of the party. Starmer's attempts to fix the situation seem to have only made things worse. Trust is the key issue. The unions feel betrayed. They supported the Labour Party in the hope that it would fight for workers' rights. But now, they feel abandoned by politicians who seem to be trying to please big businesses instead of protecting the interests of ordinary people. The Labour Party, once known as the Party of the Workers, is now at odds with the very people it was meant to represent. With millions of pounds of funding at stake and a looming lawsuit, Starmer and his team are facing a major crisis. The union revolt could be the decisive factor that causes Starmer's leadership career to collapse. The Labour Party under Starmer has created difficulties for itself, all related to Louise Haigh, his former transport minister. Starmer's confident statements about lawmakers and lawbreakers are now coming back to haunt him badly. It turns out, Haigh had a criminal record. She had admitted to fraud for claiming insurance for a stolen mobile phone. She called it a big mistake, but fraud is fraud, no matter how you look at it. And this person was put in charge of a budget of £30 billion. It is hard to believe that such an important responsibility was handed to someone like her. It's like putting a fox in charge of the henhouse. What's notable is that this issue only came to light after 3 years. Haigh joined the shadow cabinet in 2020, but it wasn't until 2023 that the matter was revealed. 3 years passed, allowing someone convicted of insurance fraud to make crucial decisions regarding the national transport system. This raises serious doubts about whether Starmer truly understands his team. The Conservative Party quickly seized on this opportunity, and it's hard to blame them. If you can't trust someone involved in a phone insurance fraud case, how can you trust them to manage billions of pounds in taxpayers' money? But the issue doesn't end there. What's more concerning is the damage to the Labour Party's credibility. Starmer has always praised integrity and responsibility from the outset, but now it seems these standards are only applied when they benefit him. Political analysts have stated that this case has severely damaged the Labour Party's reputation. Starmer's response has only deepened the disappointment. Instead of providing clear explanations, he has remained almost silent, offering only familiar, empty statements. It seems he hopes that if he ignores the issue long enough, it will just blow over. However, there's reason to believe this story won't fade away easily. Elon Musk, the billionaire behind Tesla and SpaceX, has recently begun to get involved in UK politics. He has been outspoken in his criticism of Starmer's government and has openly supported Reform UK. Musk's involvement in UK politics is causing a major stir. Known for his electric car and space exploration companies, Musk is now reportedly turning his attention to politics. His interest in UK politics could stem from his dissatisfaction with Labour's direction under Starmer's leadership. Musk even predicted that Reform UK, the party led by Nigel Farage, will win the upcoming election. This is a strong statement from someone who was only previously known in the tech industry. Musk's entry into politics could have far-reaching influence, especially with the financial resources he is reportedly considering donating to Reform UK. Reports suggest Musk may be willing to donate up to £100 million, helping Reform UK run a national campaign, flooding social media with ads and directly challenging the major parties. This could become a game-changer in UK politics, with Labour no longer able to dismiss the threat Musk's involvement poses. Moreover, recent polls show Reform UK is attracting significant attention, with a support rate of 6.7% in recent local council elections. This is a percentage that could swing the results in upcoming elections, raising concerns for Labour. Meanwhile, Labour is facing another tough challenge. A petition is currently causing a stir in Westminster, with millions calling for a new election. The number of signatures is rapidly increasing and has already surpassed 3 million. Political analysts are worried that if this trend continues, an early election could be unavoidable. This situation is even more critical as many feel they voted for change, not for the old politics. Public discontent is crystal clear, and this frustration is being directed at Starmer's government. Starmer's response to the situation has not lived up to expectations. While he tries to appear calm, stating, "We are listening and change takes time," his body language tells a different story. This only heightens doubts and criticisms of Starmer's leadership abilities. However, the biggest challenge facing Labour now is the financial issue. The party's first budget is attracting significant attention, with much of the revenue coming from a proposed tax hike worth billions. In the previous election campaign, Labour promised not to raise taxes, but now they are implementing a completely different policy. This change has left many feeling deceived, especially working-class families. The poor, already struggling to make ends meet, will bear the brunt of this tax increase. Additionally, financial experts continue to criticise Labour's spending plan. Ben Zaranko from the Institute for Fiscal Studies pointed out that Labour won't be able to sustain this spending plan without implementing another round of tax hikes. This raises concerns about Labour's financial management as the government's borrowing costs continue to rise. What's notable is that the goal behind this tax increase doesn't seem to be to support the public, but rather to please special interest groups who won't be directly affected by the tax hikes. This is a serious issue, as ordinary workers are bearing all the burdens. Public disappointment with Starmer's government is becoming more evident. While he tries to justify his decisions with talk of difficult and necessary measures, the reality shows that he is facing a significant challenge. An early election could be the ultimate test for this Labour leader, as public support continues to decline. Overall, this is a budget bomb that is shaking the entire country, with promises torn apart like scraps of paper, and a government that seems more concerned with pleasing special interest groups than looking after ordinary people. This is just the beginning. The public's reaction to this budget is becoming increasingly strong and could lead to a political storm in the future. On the issue of borders under Starmer's supervision, the latest figures are truly shocking. The net migration to the UK has reached 906,000 people in the year to June 2023, nearly 1 million people, even exceeding initial predictions. The Office for National Statistics had to revise its estimates upward by an additional 166,000 people. This isn't just a surge. Experts like Brian Bell, chair of the Migration Advisory Committee, predict that net migration could remain between 300,000 and 350,000 people annually without any significant changes. This is a massive increase compared to what happened in the late 20th century. Migrants are mainly coming from non-EU countries like India, Nigeria, Pakistan, China and Zimbabwe. Notably, there's a wave of students and workers from outside the EU, mainly in healthcare and social care sectors. The situation becomes even more interesting as workers have set no limits on net migration. Their view is that there's no need for specific targets on numbers. It seems they've given up from the start. The impact on jobs and wages for British workers is extremely serious. Many industries now rely heavily on foreign labour, causing concern among British citizens about sustainability and job opportunities for themselves. Starmer's response. He blames Brexit, claiming it was an experiment with open borders, and promises to reform the points-based immigration system. But wasn't Brexit meant to allow the UK to better control its borders? His government is now saying it will crack down on visa abuse and require companies to train domestic workers. But with these numbers, it's clear that such measures won't solve the problem. People's concerns about housing, public services, and the changing landscape of communities are understandable. While Starmer may claim to be tough on immigration, the reality is completely different. These numbers reflect a reality the government can't deny. Clearly, immigration in the UK is changing rapidly, and the government's response is not sufficient to address the deep concerns of the public. Starmer's latest move on Brexit has caused quite a stir, but not in the way many expected. Remember when he promised to make Brexit work? Now, it seems his definition of Brexit is completely different from the expectations of the majority. Starmer is now focused on his trips to EU countries and attending summits, seemingly indifferent to pressing domestic issues. His recent trips are not just opportunities to rack up air miles, but part of a broader strategy to rebuild the UK-EU relationship. But what does this really mean? Is it new trade deals, changes in immigration policy, or a series of compromises to appease those who voted for Brexit? That's the important question. Labour is now planning to hire an EU negotiator with a salary of up to £200,000. They argue that the aim is to address trade barriers and cooperate on international issues like Russia's invasion. However, the reality is that this might be just the first step in Starmer's quiet strategy to undo Brexit. Although the Labour Party claims it has no intention of reversing Brexit or rejoining the EU, or of restoring free movement, why then is there a need for an EU negotiator? The true cost of this rebuilding effort could be extremely high. It's not just the billions of pounds in spending, but also the loss of a significant portion of national sovereignty. There have even been discussions about the UK potentially having to accept a large number of asylum seekers each year as part of new agreements. Too much to regain control over the borders, don't you think? And the story isn't over yet. EU officials seem eager to work with Starmer on a youth mobility programme. While this might sound harmless, in reality, it could be the first step in a series of other deals, gradually undermining the UK's independence. This is the key issue. Starmer's betrayal of Brexit is becoming more evident through secret meetings with EU leaders, along with plans that could cost the country dearly. All of this comes from a person who once promised to successfully deliver Brexit. But in Starmer's world, success now seems to mean cancelling Brexit. It's no surprise that public opinion is calling for a new election. With actions like these, Starmer's Labour Party may have signed its own political death sentence. Currently, British farmers are furious and planning to bring their protest to Starmer's doorstep. So what's making them so angry? They are facing a series of issues that directly threaten their livelihoods, starting with skyrocketing production costs. New regulations are completely out of touch with the realities of the farming industry, and Labour's recent budget has dealt a heavy blow to them. The changes to inheritance tax, in particular, are pushing farming families into difficulty as they struggle to keep agricultural businesses running for future generations. Agriculture leaders have not hesitated to criticise this injustice. They argue that Labour is completely out of touch with rural communities. A senior official from a major farming organisation even bluntly stated they were tired of Starmer's lies. These strong words come from a group that is usually very quiet. This isn't just a typical protest. a fleet of tractors will thunder through the streets of London. Farmers from all over the country are descending on the capital, creating a monumental sight that will surely be a nightmare for Starmer. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The issue isn't just the anger of the farmers, it's the deep concerns about the UK's food security. If these farmers continue to be pushed to the brink, what will happen to the country's self-sufficiency? Experts warn that if this trend doesn't change, the UK's food production will severely decline, forcing the country to rely even more on imports in an increasingly unstable global context. So, how does Starmer respond? He offers vague statements about difficult decisions and necessary measures. But for the farmers witnessing their livelihoods slowly vanish, those words are just empty rhetoric. It seems Starmer has no real understanding of the realities of the food production industry, and that's the situation at hand. Farmers are calling for action, but the government remains indifferent while the country's food security is under threat. Starmer may think he's dealing with bigger issues, but he will soon realise that angry farmers cannot be ignored. This could be just the beginning of the trouble he will face in rural areas.